Hey everybody, welcome to the 4,000 subscribers OG 55 celebration stream. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Let's get started.
Welcome to Orange Grove 55.
Welcome aboard to this very, very special live stream celebrating 4,000 subscribers here on OG 55. It's a big, big celebration today. We have a lot of people in the chat already. We got Theme Park Casual, Rogue Disney, Matthew Murr, Wicked Virtue, Jay, Story Geeks, Jalen. It's going to be a really, really fun show today. Before we kick everything off, though, I want to introduce my fantastic panel. I got Dr. Dre, VashSky, host of Freshly Squeezed, over here to my left and to your right. Dre, welcome back, brother. If you can let everyone home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Hey, the best place to interact with me is going to be right there at VashSky, just like it's spelled at the bottom of my screen right here. And if you want to see me, well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now at OG55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info squeezed fresh right from the Grove. There you go. Happy 4K, OG. Seriously, this is a phenomenal accomplishment for the entire channel.
It's really surprising. When I did that first video on Mission Breakout back in like 2016 with like no mic and like just this little iPad like on a bookshelf, I was like, there's no way like I'll ever hit like 1,000, you know? And here we are. We got 4,000. We made it. We really did create like a really cool community, and we've had just a lot of great people on the channel and everything. It really has been awesome. Awesome. We have down below George, the Disney Family Man 23, host of our Walt Disney World show, Citrus Corner. George, if you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
Absolutely. You can find me on my YouTube channel, Disney Family Man 23, if you want to interact with me, on Twitter at Disney George. And as you had mentioned, OG, you can find me here on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all the sweet, tasty, but yet sticky Disney news and info.
Right.
I love it. And for the occasion, we, of course, have to play the signature.
We'll do it live. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Yeah, buddy.
I love that O'Reilly drop. It's just so perfect for a live show. You just gotta have it. It's obligatory.
And it's us. It's our personality.
Right, exactly. Sure. Exactly. Our good friend, Mr. Theme Park Casual, thank you so much, brother, for your contribution, sir. Congrats, boys, and onward to 5K and then the inevitable world domination. Yeah, just like thinking in the brain, world domination.
That's right, man. That's right. Yeah, we're trying. We're getting there. We're getting
there. Slowly but surely, we're getting there, you know. But really, thank you, Casual, so much, brother. You've been a huge supporter of the channel for a very long time. You've been on the channel. We love you, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Sentiment much echoed. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you so much. And we got a lot of people in the chat. Okay, so Casual, congrats, dudes. Thank you, sir. We have Wicked Virtue.
Yeah.
We did actually a really fun video with Wicked Virtue yesterday, and check it out. It's actually here. Hold on one second. I might be able to link it in the chat for everybody. Check it out and give her a subscribe. She does really fun content. Let me see if I can post that. Hold on,
criminally undersubbed.
Yes. Check out. There we go. All right, I posted it in the chat. It should be there now. But yeah, subscribe to her. She's really awesome. We had a really fun time yesterday talking to her. Let me see. We have Alia Aloha in the chat. Thank you, Alia.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Alia. And Alia is a friend of the channel. She's been on many times. Ollie is absolutely brilliant. 100%. Crystal Ray today. What's up, Crystal Ray? Crystal Ray's been with us since the very beginning, back in like 2016. Actually, she's been there for a really long time. And
she's been around for a little while because she's got the Paint the Night avatar right there. You know, so she's in it.
yeah, for sure. So let's get started. Let's dive into like some really fun like park stuff today. Now, George, and also just so you guys and gals at home know, we're going to be taking questions. So if you have any questions like theme park stuff, movie, film, streaming, anything like that, just post it in the chat and we'll go ahead and answer some questions. I think that would be a lot of fun, you know? So George, but you had an interesting kind of topic that you wanted to bring up today because of the Comic-Con situation in Marvel and how that might kind of relate to the park. So if you want to kind of set the table, George, and then let us know, just set the table and we'll go from there, basically.
Absolutely. Well, as many of you know, this past weekend, Comic-Con was going on in San Diego. And we all kind of know when any of these expos, conventions, what have you, they kind of set the stage, so to speak, for the next big convention or expo. So as many of you have already known, that they have released a plethora of Marvel Studio informations, phases, I believe 4, 5, and 6, kind of like the whole.
I've got the visuals here to prove it here.
Perfect. So
Right
there you go. And so I mean, they were just like knocking them out of the park. And I had a funny feeling because there was some stir up talking about Fantastic Four. And I knew that they were going to have something going on, especially if you've seen Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. You can kind of get a little taste of the Fantastic Four. But I digress. I'm actually looking at the other two that actually caught me by surprise. And it's the two Avengers films, the Secret Wars and the Kang Dynasty, because as far as we knew, we kind of figured that Endgame was like the finale as far as like the Avengers saga, so to speak, with everyone together, where that may be true. They may bring on new characters as part of the Avengers. And what I found this interesting is the second that I heard this announcement, immediately the first thing that came into my mind was the e-ticket attraction for Avengers Campus, because they were kind of playing around with it. They were putting it on hold. And I think by the time, it would come back for them to start that project, we're already out of the Infinity War. We're already out of Endgame. No one really cares about Thanos anymore, so to speak, as being the galactic threat to the Avengers. So whatever this new threat is going to be between these two movies, and correct me if I'm wrong, fellas, are they both coming out at the same year?
Oh,
yeah, I think they're coming out within 1 year of each other.
1 year, okay. Which I think is kind of fascinating. So I'm assuming that they're going to film these maybe like simultaneously, sort of like how they did the Pirates movies and how Peter Jackson did Lord of the Rings.
Shang-Chi and Thor: Love and Thunder were filmed simultaneously. I think I think that might be the standard going forward.
Yeah. So I'm actually very curious to really see what these films entail, because that could give us a lot of questions answered for the e-ticket. So what do you fellas think? And everyone in the chat, what do you all think of as far as moving forward with these two Avenger films? That can they play a big part with the e-ticket?
It's possible. The only trap that I think that Disney can kind of fall into, though, with any kind of Avengers attraction, is that the MCU moves really fast, right?
Yeah.
So like where we're at right now with the MCU is a much different place than we were even 2 or 3 years ago. So, and attractions take a long time to build. So let's just say you focus on, this multiverse saga when you're building this Avengers e-ticket. Well, by the time the e-ticket opens, this multiverse saga might be a little bit outdated. It might be something that's not exactly current with whatever the current MCU is at the time. That's my only issue that I have with it. I would much rather prefer the Avengers e-ticket kind of take a page out of like Indiana Jones Adventure, where it hits all the cues of the franchise, like hits all like the various like iconography and things you associate with the Avengers and superheroes, but not necessarily like a direct lift from any movie that's currently in theaters or was in theaters. Like give the energy of the Avengers, like Indiana Jones Adventure has that energy of Indiana Jones, but don't like play to one specific movie or whatever. So kind of what I think they should do, just to kind of prevent it becoming a little too dated, in my opinion.
Okay. Now I did see in the comments that Samuel Blank actually posted, "Hey Sam, so glad you're able to make it." That it's May and November of 2025 for both Avengers.
Yeah, within like a year span. So it's like that's kind of what I have heard, is that they're coming out pretty quick, and that's why I think. Yeah, that's why I think they'll be filming them simultaneously, like you said, George. But I think that's why, to speak to your point, OG, whatever they do will have to be dynamic in that way to reflect the ongoing updates to the Marvel MCU.
Right.
And so that's why I think that's why they were going with the particular system that they were going for when the project was first announced, because that would, a lot of it was going to be screen based. And that would have allowed them to update those visuals as new characters are introduced, or maybe potentially new storylines are made famous within the MCU going forward on kind of like this rolling basis kind of thing. So I think they wanted something that provided them with the distinct dynamic and variety that could be afforded to them, in not a so dissimilar way that Star Tours does currently right now. Right. Star Tours, they can easily slot in different segments to better update and reflect Star Wars as it changes over time. We'll go into Star Wars here shortly, but because that's something I wanted to bring up. But I think that's kind of why the Avengers e-ticket, even now, even in its current form, why they were going with that was because I think they understood, OG and George, that this stuff would change. People would expect different things as time goes on, and that change would be provided in the form of in the final execution of what they actually end up doing.
Yeah, no, 100%. And our buddy Matthew Murr is asking, what do you think Disney might do to represent Walt at the 100th anniversary following the outrage over Disneyland 67?
How about actually play the speech?
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe play the speech. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh man, Matthew, that seriously, that's an interesting question. That really is. Now, they got a lot of heat for that speech, or lack thereof. I'd be surprised if they don't play that speech next year, just because of the heat they got for it. There were many articles in the mainstream media in regards to that and what have you. In terms of like what Matthew's asking, what do I think they're going to do to represent Walt? I don't know. I just want to see some stuff. Like, you don't have to go like too nerdy with it. Like, I understand like a lot of the Walt stuff isn't like 100% mainstream, and you don't want to bombard it. But like at the same time, like if there was like a really cool fireworks show or something, it'd be nice to have like maybe a line from Walt Disney talking about like, animation or the parks or something. I really hope they kind of go that route and kind of like at least tip their hat a little bit to the man who actually created the company that, started everything 100 years ago, in my opinion. What do you think, Vash? I mean, in regards to Matthew's question, how do you think they might represent Walt for the 100th, or will they not do it at all? Will they kind of skim over it and kind of just pretend like it's?
I think Disney, to your point, OG, I think Disney got a lot of heat that they weren't necessarily expecting when it came to Walt's speech in particular. Thanks in no small way to maybe some of the efforts that we had in bringing attention to that very, very issue. I guess. You were saying that the New York Post actually reached out to Disney for comments. So they know that this is kind of an issue here. And also, too, I mean, I think they picked up a lot of data to suggest that maybe they weren't being as reverential as people may have expected or people wanted in the form of the 50th anniversary for Walt Disney World. I think they put out questions and surveys to the point that kind of reflected that maybe that kind of apathy towards the 50th, and that, hey, why didn't you like it? Was it because it wasn't, it didn't bring up historical events, that it didn't touch on the unique history of Walt Disney World? So I think they understand now, poignantly, that history is important, that people want, in these big kind of milestone celebrations, they want these historical figures that have contributed to the Walt Disney Company, including Walt Disney himself, to be represented in those celebrations. And I think the company understands that now. I think they will do something that will, maybe represent Walt in some way. What form that might take is going to be interesting. We're already hearing that Wondrous for, I believe that's what's going to be called here for Disneyland, will go through the kind of 100 years of animation. That could have a lot of Walt in it when you really think about it, because he did, make a lot of those milestones himself. Now, obviously, animation's kind of taken off from his day, but I think you could represent Walt distinctly in those kind of avenues. But as far as what it actually might take, George, you kind of make the joke, but I think, hey, you got to play Walt's speech, but maybe pick from a variety of other speeches that he would have made in the lead up to some of these animated films, and incorporate those quotes and so forth, and some of these distinct shows and offerings and ceremonies and celebrations. I think would be a really, really nice touch. It is the Disney company after all, and I don't think you can have a 100th anniversary without representing Walt and Roy distinctly in these avenues.
Oh, and let's be very clear as well. If it wasn't for Walt Disney, none of us would even be here right today. I would have never have met Vash or George or everyone in the chat. I mean, we're all here because of that man, and so I think that's important to acknowledge that, right? I think so. I hope they definitely go all out with that. What do you think, George?
I mean, I do know at the expo they are going to bring Walt's plane to the convention center.
That's So
that's going to be very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
As far as also incorporating him, with Dreamer's Point for Epcot, I cannot wait to see that statue. I think out of all the statues, I think that's the one that I can resonate with the most once I actually visually see it, because it's not, as OG had put it many times before, it's not like the partner statue where it's like he's this big shrine, over a bed of flowers or nothing. It's like he's down with the people. He's sitting on a step overlooking Epcot and what have you. And kind of echoing what you guys are saying, like I would love to see like that rich history be incorporated into the parks. Some of the stuff that a lot of people don't even really think about when they think of Walt Disney, like the Alice comedies, when it was the Disney Brothers Studios, and then with Oswald, the Lucky Rabbit, incorporate leading into Steamboat Willie and Plane Crazy and all those older cartoons. Like that was where it started, that eventually got Walt into saying, hey, let's make a feature-length animated movie, which is now known as Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which then created the Disney animation, and not even just paved the way for Disney, but it also paved the way for DreamWorks, for Illuminations, for Pixar, because none of those studios would ever be anything than what they are, because Disney started that tradition with feature-length animation.
No, 100%, 100%. So it'd be very interesting to see how they lean into that or how they don't lean into that. I really do want to see them lean into Walt a little bit. Look, I understand not everyone is like totally like, like super nerdy about it, but like they should at least acknowledge it, and kind of throw it out there a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see how that all pans out. But
I have a little digression to make just real fast.
Sure,
I know this
no
is going to come out of completely left field, but when George referenced statues, I said, this brings something to mind here that I kind of wanted to just ask the question here. OG, I got something on my screen here that you can show. This is the statue of Cinderella that's on the Disney Wish right now, as provided for by Ordinary Adventures, one of their videos. What happened to this mold here? What happened to this sculpt? Why in the world does Cinderella look like this? Like, this does not look particularly great. That's all I'm saying. And
she looks like Chucky.
I don't know if it's the lighting or something. I don't know what happened with this sculpt, but it does not look. It maybe a little bit off model from what we think of and relate to Cinderella. I don't know what happened here. Hopefully Walt's statue is done in a better way. It looks like it will be, but when you said that, George, I was like, what happened here? If anybody can give me the story on this, please let me know.
Yeah, that's for yeah. It doesn't look 100% like her. Maybe from far away, if you're squinting a little bit, it looks great. But
Yeah, when you get up on it, it's like, ooh, what the heck?
you know.
But I think it's kind of funny.
no.
Sorry, before you continue, I noticed that Alia said, take a shot anytime someone says the D23 Expo. I don't have a shot, Alia, but I'm one step ahead of you. So
There
cheers.
you go. Cheers. Cheers. Now, Jalen Morris is asking, do you guys think D23 will be the mic drop to the Hall H panel Marvel had? Now, what I think Jalen's asking here, and Jalen, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong here in my assumption. I think you kind of mean like, are they going to kind of like elaborate on what they announced here and really like, and that elaboration is going to be like, the home run basically, right? Like the mic drop. Mm-hmm. And if that is your question, Jalen, I do think that will be the case. I do think that D23 is going to be the thing. I really do. I think that Kevin Feige over and over and over and over again has shown that he wants to please the fans. He gets up on these convention stages and he always has a lot of stuff for fans. And I think this is going to be a big D23. We got basically the template right now at Comic-Con for the multiverse saga and phase 4, 5, and 6. We got a lot of great stuff. I'm telling you though, Feige's gonna get on that stage and he is gonna mic drop. I really do believe that.
And they kind of have to do that at Comic-Con because Marvel is so intrinsic to the kind of Comic-Con kind of fan base and so forth. So they always usually bring out some stuff for them. I believe the Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout announcement was actually done at Comic-Con.
Yes, it was.
If I'm not mistaken. Right?
Yes,
yeah, okay. So it's just like, you kind of had to bust something out for the fans. But I think there will be some mic drop moments, not just from Marvel, but from a wide assortment of things that Disney's going to be doing in the next couple of years. That is going to be heavily featured there. There will be some mic drop moments. Trust me, you didn't see it all. You only saw really from just one studio. And, I mean, Star Wars had some stuff, but it wasn't anything I'm talking to. Go ahead.
And that's why I was paying really close attention to Comic-Con, especially when it came to the Marvel panels, because as said, that was going to set the stage for D23. And as you had mentioned, Vash, like it kind of proclaims to like the comic books and the films and everything, but then they can kind of hone in on that and then move forward with the D23 Expo, where it involves heavily with the parks. So it's like the two connections can come together and say, hey, well, do you remember hearing back in Comic-Con about this movie? And they're going to talk about the films anyway during the live action panel. So they may even be giving some hints during that time as well, because the live action panel is going to be before the parks.
Right.
Yeah. No,
100%. It's going to be, I'm telling you, and I know you, George and Alia joke around about it with the expo. I don't know. I was kind of a doubter early on about the expo because I don't know. I get kind of let down a little bit from these conventions. A lot of times I get hyped up and then it happens and then it doesn't really deliver. Mm-hmm. But I have a different vibe coming out of this D23 Expo. I really do believe that this is going to be a big one, especially since we missed a year because of the pandemic, right? Mm-hmm. I think they're going to come with it. I really do. I'm telling you, not just with movies, but with parks, all of it. It's going to be, I think it's going to be pretty wild. I think it's going to be very, very wild. Oh, our good friend, Jay Shear of the Story Geek. Shout out to Jay, by the way. He is amazing. We love Jay. Subscribe to his channel. He does phenomenal content from a writer's perspective, and it really is interesting stuff. I to this day, Jay, I love your video that you did on Darth Vader, like why Darth Vader is scary. And it was kind of recently, like a few weeks ago when the Kenobi series was out. I absolutely love that video, Jay. Top notch, my friend, top notch. But his question is, what's the most exciting thing in your mind happening in the theme parks in the next 5 years? Dre, next 5 years, what's the most exciting thing, dude?
I think, oh man, that's an interesting thing. 5 years, right? Well, and the difficulty is like you have to separate because we all kind of want stuff for our home parks. So what may be very exciting for one person might not be exciting for somebody in Japan, for instance, right? Because it's like, we all kind of have that kind of home park base, and we kind of want to, see those things come to fruition, stuff like that. What's the most exciting thing? That's a very interesting thing. I think what excites me most, and again, it's that home park bias. I'm really excited about what happens at the Disneyland Resort in the next 5 years, to be honest with you. And we do have, by the way, let me see if I can find it here, because I just opened a window here featuring it. Yeah, we do have some kind of clarity on what might be going on with the parking lot project that we were talking about here in the kind of the downtown Disney parking lot north of the property, just south of Mickey and Friends parking structure and Pixar Palace parking structure. It looks like it is just going to be some improvement work for this parking lot. That's it. They're creating new boxes here for planters and so forth. This is courtesy of Walt Disney World News Today. Right here, it looks like it's going to be something pretty benign. So it's so
what you're saying, Dre, is this is your number one most hyped thing for the next 5 years?
100%. I want to see this parking lot in its pristine form. Honestly, I've been looking at this parking lot for quite some time. The asphalt's been chewed up and everything. I really do. Honestly, the next 5 years, out of all the things that WDI is currently doing right now, this right here excites me the most. No, joking. Can't even say that with a straight face, but Disneyland Resort really excites me, like it really does. Yeah. But as far as like the whole like cohesive package or whatever, have you seen that fantasy section of Tokyo Disney Seas coming up? Like it looks ridiculous. Like that right there.
Out of everything that they were working on overseas, like that excited me more than what Hong Kong is doing. And
yes,
Tokyo is. I'm never surprised, but yet they always catch me off guard of what they have up their sleeve.
Oh, it is ridiculous. This expansion is totally blowing my mind here. Like in terms of the quality, the detail, it's just some of the stuff. George, we were having this conversation about like the new Fantasyland as it was announced by Jay Rasulo back in the day, right? And what that could entail. What are the things that you could possibly do with that? The mind just works a billion miles a second here, trying to figure it out. And I think the kind of expectation that we had going into that project before we actually saw the art and everything like that, a lot of the stuff that Tokyo Disney Seas is doing is what we kind of had in our mind, right? What was possible with this kind of new generation of Imagineers with a unlimited budget and taking these historical type of films, right, from different generations of animated film and kind of bringing them to life in these brand new ways. Honestly, really, really, really exciting. I'd say, maybe stateside, if maybe that doesn't excite you, Epic Universe is really kind of exciting. And not just because of what Universal's doing, but for maybe the implications it has for the entire themed community in Orlando, Florida specifically, right? We've talked about how, hey, when Universal wins, even Disney fans win, because a lot of times that means that other people, that Walt Disney World has to compete with that and has to bring stuff to the forward and has to announce their own plans in terms of how to respond to those things. If Universal, Epic Universe is really, really successful, that is likely what will happen. So that's a really exciting thing too. But there's a lot of exciting things happening in these themed spaces. But from my standpoint, with my personal bias, I don't know. Disneyland Resort really excites me, especially with the number of different projects that are in the works right now.
I have major home park bias, like unbelievable home park bias. And I will be the first to admit it. I am all about the Disneyland Resort, but I don't want our friends in Orlando to be left out either. I'm not like, but I really want to see in the next 5 years, I really want to see some sort of movement on Disneyland forward. I really want to see Disneyland Resort expand beyond kind of its current, not really. Well, yeah, kind of like beyond its current perimeters. I know that like the Disneyland, forward thing is about like kind of rezoning current land. But in terms of like the theme parks go, it would be expanding those perimeters. I really want to see that. I really, really do. Because you look, and I've said this many times, people at home, look, if Disney cannot grow beyond its current boundaries for these theme parks, eventually they're going to look inward. And what does that mean? They're going to start looking at current attractions they can retheme or demolish. And in an attempt to kind of expand, right? So like if they can't go beyond the borders that they currently have, they're going to look towards the tiki room, or they're going to look towards this attraction or that attraction to demolish or retheme because they have no choice. Disneyland Forward needs to happen. If you want to keep the current roster of attractions and grow beyond that, we need to grow physically beyond what we have now. Otherwise, eventually we will dig into what we're going to cannibalize our own stuff. And I don't want to see that. I want to keep Tiki Room. I want to keep Pirates. I want to keep these attractions, but at the same time, I want to grow and get new stuff. And the best way to do that is through programs or whatever initiatives through, like Disneyland Forward. And that's what I'm really looking forward to the most. Next 5 years, I really want to see Disneyland Forward or some iteration of that approved, ready to go. I want to see some movement on that. That would really, really, man, that would excite me, dude. I'd be on here every single day talking about that and through videos and everything. I just that whole idea of expanding the Disneyland Resort is really, really exciting to me. What do you think, George? In terms of the next 5 years, theme parks, Florida, Anaheim, international parks. What's the most exciting stuff for you personally?
Well, for me, I mean, to also echo what you guys were saying, I am very curious to see what the Disneyland Resort has in store, because for many years, it's always been the Walt Disney World show. Disneyland was always taking the back seat on everything. So it's sort of kind of nice to see the OG park getting the TLC that it really does deserve. So I will say that. Aside from that, I am very curious to see what's going to go on within the next 5 years with Animal Kingdom, because Vash and I have been talking about this with a lengthy conversation that they always like to rotate the parks. Magic Kingdom, we're pretty much safe to say they're good to go. They're going to be getting Tron. Epcot is in the construction phase with the Moana section and more of what the future world section used to be with Inventions. And then, Hollywood Studios with Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land. But I think that's the other park that will have to need some more meat on those bones. But the next one up is going to be Animal Kingdom, because the last big thing was Pandora, and that was back in 2017. So Animal Kingdom is due, and I think a lot of people are kind of honing in on that Dino Land USA section as being the next replacement for that park.
And as I was talking to George about when it came to this discussion, I think the investment in Florida going forward will be very cyclical. I think it'll be very much like, hey, we're going to do Animal Kingdom, Disney Hollywood Studios, and Epcot. Now, Epcot's getting the attention that some of these things are starting to go in. I know it's been like, speed is half the speed of snail, basically, is in terms of these investments going into Epcot. But now that we're starting to finally kind of get the wheels cranking on this, kind of understanding what we're going to do here, now I think that's going to revolve around to the very beginning. I think Disney's Animal Kingdom is going to be the next place here where significant investment might be laid, whether that be in the form of an Avatar expansion or something else. Maybe Zootopia. I think George and I have kind of like pretty much that's going to be it right there. Now with Joe already out of the way, it becomes kind of the most obvious thing to add, especially because Shanghai Disneyland's getting their own version of Zootopia. Chapek likes to do it, likes to double that ROI. It can't just have one, got to be two, right? So I think you can go ahead and kind of theorize that. I think it's a safe bet. By the way, George, we were going to have a video about this, but we didn't actually get a chance to. But the Carnotaurus audio animatronic is working again right there in Dino Land. So maybe that attraction itself is safe from investment. Maybe the surrounding area is getting affected. I don't know, but I think once Disney's Animal Kingdom has investment thrown its way, I think it'll go to Disney's Hollywood Studios again, and we'll kind of go on this kind of revolving path here with Magic Kingdom spread out, throwing a bone every once in a while, right? Yeah. Which maybe in the form of Splash Mountain or something else. Yeah. So I think that's kind of the future there. It's interesting, OG, to your point about Disneyland Forward, right? Yeah. The big thing that kind of surprised everybody about that whole thing was connected to those that 2% entrance tax, right? That they, that came before the city council. I believe, what was it, Jose Morenas or Morena? Moreno, sorry, I do apologize. Jose Moreno had forwarded that kind of motion there and saying, oh, well, it's going to be 2% tax, but we can omit Anaheim residents from it and stuff. And it's like, how's that going to work? And it just seemed to be untenable and feasible. And, especially in a place like, California, who loves its taxes. And on the kind of what's it? We're still kind of handling the fallout of the mayor of Anaheim being, being ousted like he was, the FBI investigation and so forth. We kind of thought that the 2% tax, maybe that was necessarily connected to Disneyland Forward as kind of a make good by the city council as they sit for what happened in those investigations and so forth. And I don't know, with them striking down that tax, that was a very surprising move there. So maybe Disneyland Forward maybe isn't as dead as we think it is. Maybe that's a reflection of, hey, listen, even though it's Disneyland wanting to do something in Anaheim, doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad for the city. And really, it's just rezoning. That's really what it comes down to. Do they have the right to do what they want with their own property? I think, yes, they do. And I think a city councilman could make the argument that, like, hey, look, listen, there has been impropriety, right, between these certain entities, right? But just because Disneyland gets their way in this instance doesn't make it bad for the city. With new investment comes new jobs, new opportunities for Anaheim. And I think people might still be in that kind of headspace of, hey, with Disneyland shut down as it was, that really did hurt the city. And so if they want to invest in their property, that's good for the city. And I think you could make that argument there.
100%. And Wicked Virtue comes in with the super sticker. Thank you so much, Amanda, for the donation. It means a lot. We had a ton of fun with you yesterday, talking the theme parks and the MCU and Disney animation. Thank you so much, Wicked Virtue. And again, everyone home, subscribe to Wicked Virtue. She's in the last video we just did. Check her out, and she's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Fantastic.
And I just have to and I just have to add from the last question really quick. And I do also think that Animal Kingdom will focus on Pandora. But I think they're just waiting for James Cameron to finish up with the sequels, which that was to his discretion, to the Imagineers, that he wanted the films to come out first so they have more to work with for that land.
And from what I understand, the Imagineers over there in Animal Kingdom are working on projects for that park aren't the only ones waiting on James Cameron. There might be a certain European park that also might be waiting on James Cameron, but we'll get to that eventually.
Yeah. And then, of course, the not really with the parks, but also the Disney Cruise Line. I am very curious to see the next two ships that are on the roster, because they are still coming out. The president of the Disney Cruise Line actually still confirmed with D23 and the Disney Insiders that the other two ships will be coming out shortly after, with the opening of the Disney Wish.
Yeah, and that might be due to maybe perhaps retiring some of the older vessels of the fleet, as you were, because they are starting to get to their expiration point here. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to those older ships.
Yeah, 100%. And GooGamp32 is asking, do you think that Disney will ever do more rides and attractions based on third-party IP? Personally, I'd love to see them do theme park rights to Dragon Ball, Total Drama, and Doctor Who. Here's the thing, GooGamp, is that Disney has so much IP in their own library, it would really not be financially feasible or beneficial to them to kind of go outside of their own, like what they own. Like, they have so much already. Like, why are they going to pay another company a licensing fees or whatever they got to pay? I just don't see it happening, and it just feels a little bit unnecessary. Like, you have Disney, which Disney in and of itself is a gigantic IP, like gigantic, all right?
Oh, yeah.
That in and of itself is enormous. And then you have Marvel, which is, again, huge. Star Wars.
Yep.
All the Fox stuff, which is, again, gigantic. You have Pixar. I mean, there's already so much. Why go outside of your own little thing if you don't really have to? Like, and really, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. These franchises you bring up are fantastic. I just don't know if they're worth going outside of Disney's like IP bubble and paying other companies for that stuff if they already have an enormous amount of IP they can utilize on their own. I just think that they should kind of stay in-house, in my opinion. But what do you think, Dre? You think they should go a little more third party, or you think that it's kind of like, well, they got enough IP in-house, you kind of utilize what they got already, you know?
Well, the examples of them going to third-party IP really, it's a combination of factors that happen, really. And one of it was, guided by Disney not having a as relevant IP at that time. So, for example, I think the first example would be Star Tours in 1987 with George Lucas and Michael Eisner. Michael Eisner really did want to, get the company in the right direction, but didn't necessarily have the IP in order to do so. And I think that kind of joint venture right there really provided him with the relationship that I think he wanted with George Lucas going forward, and an IP, an extremely relevant IP for the parks that they could kind of duplicate and multiply throughout the entire resort empire. And then we saw that all once again with Indiana Jones. I think the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Peril at Paris was the first kind of example of that, and then obviously Indiana Jones' Adventure at Disneyland. It's like, do we have an IP that necessarily fits in this kind of area that is as necessarily relevant? At that time, they didn't. That kind of situation has changed. Now we have seen a little bit of this with like Avatar, right? I think Avatar, was that announced? Yeah, that was announced just right after the Pixar acquisition, but right before the Star Wars acquisition, right? I think they wanted to go with a really big land to compete with Wizarding World Harry Potter finally. And that was kind of that direction right there. They just didn't have necessarily the unique rights to an IP that large, and that's why they kind of leaned in that direction. Even before that, we saw Disney might have done something with who was it? What is her name? A Harry Potter writer.
J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling. Sorry. You got all this stuff in your head, right? J.K. Rowling, right? They were going to do something with her originally before Universal got the rights there.
Yep.
And I think a lot of that was, hey, we don't have a Marvel, we don't have a Star Wars, we don't have a lot of these other things, but what kind of fantasy IP that would necessarily fit within the kind of House of Mouse? Well, what really was Harry Potter, and at that time it was a huge franchise. So that's why they were kind of leaning in that direction. So when it comes to these kind of other franchises that you mentioned here, are they necessarily of the size and scale that would motivate them to work in that direction, while also maybe not having a franchise that they have in-house that would necessarily compete with those? And that's kind of like the two-part equation there. So I don't necessarily think, even as big as these franchises are, any one of them necessarily hitting that bill. Doctor Who I think is the thing that comes the closest, but again, unfortunately, that's very culturally distinct, right? Maybe Disneyland Paris, maybe there's a future there with Doctor Who, but maybe not necessarily anywhere else. And if you can't spread these franchises around, then you're kind of limited in how that investment goes. So I don't really see that. Like you said, OG, it's just...
That makes sense.
It just doesn't make sense right now. If an IP really catches fire and is internationally successful and all that, and it can be integrated into the parks, they have looked at it historically, but it really has to have the right blending of elements.
Well, it made sense in the Michael Eisner era because, like you said, it was a different time in the mid 80s. Disney didn't have a lot of their own IP at that time. Right. Like they were struggling in live action and animation. Really, I mean, they were really having a rough time. So they had to look outside for what was hot in the 80s, and that was Star Wars and Michael Jackson with Cap and Neo and things like that.
And
there was even a period of time where the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were making an appearance at MGM Studios.
At what is it? MGM Hollywood Studios, right? Disney MGM. Yeah. So it's like that was the kind of whole thing. But Pixar, right? Disney didn't really have a lot of success with their own animation, so they integrated the Pixar characters in their parks before they actually owned them and stuff like that. So they have looked outside. They have, especially with studios and things that they have distinct relationships with. But it is kind of like right now they might have too much IP. We were talking about it with Fox, right? With 20th Century Fox, that it's like, how do you leverage the kind of library that Fox has? And they haven't really done a great job of it. Maybe it's time to kind of siphon those off. Maybe keep the theme park rights to a couple of things. And so I think IP for them right now is not the problem. It's really the cash flow and some other things that are holding them back.
Yeah. What do you think, Mr. Family Man, in terms of third-party IP?
I do agree. I think that they have enough on their plate as it is to kind of go through. And as we're starting to see Lucasfilm and Marvel open up even more, so they're going to have a lot to utilize moving forward than looking beyond for third party. But at the same time, if someone were to ask me, they were going to make an Avatar themed land at Animal Kingdom, I'd say no way, that would never happen. Or if they would even acquire Lucasfilm and Marvel, I'd say no. Marvel is Marvel. Lucasfilm is Star Wars and Indiana Jones. They'll never, be part of the Disney dynasty, but yet here it is. So, I mean, anything's possible. In my personal opinion, I don't think it will, but you never know.
You never know. You never know. I will keep an eye, though, and I have no inside information, but I would definitely keep an eye on the Hollywood Tower of Terror over at Hollywood Studios. It's a third party. They've already rethemed. Well, really, that's the only Hollywood Tower hotel that's still Twilight Zone. Even Tokyo is an original story.
Mm-hmm.
No, well, is Paris? Oh, no, I take that back. I'm sorry. Because Paris is still Twilight Zone, right? If I'm not mistaken.
For now.
Yes.
For now.
For now. I think it has had some overlaps
I don't know
before?
if it actually... I don't think it actually has the Twilight Zone title to it. I think it's just to their background history. What was the one where actually Joe Rody was part of with the... That's Tokyo. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think the Florida one and especially the Paris one, because the Paris one butts up right against their brand new Avengers campus, which has been very successful. And we had a similar situation here at California Adventure with our Tower of Terror getting rethemed to Guardians of the Galaxy because it was right up against Avengers campus. I can definitely see the Paris park switching over to Mission Breakout. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Disney's looking for some other alternate IP, maybe not Guardians because they already have Cosmic Rewind to fill that
for Walt Disney World.
I do think that's on the table. I'm not privy to any insider information, but
see,
I'll say this: it has been on the table before because I think they have to license those rights.
The licensing agreement with what was it? CBS.
I thought it was CBS Viacom. I had it
because see now my issue with changing Tower at Walt Disney World, and this isn't just part of me saying, "Oh, you got to keep the original attraction original." I actually enjoyed, and I'm probably in the minority. I prefer Mission Breakout at DCA over the Tower of Terror. I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry. I do. But that's
not going to go well.
Because I enjoy Walt Disney World's Tower much better. It has a much better overall theming, and Tower of Terror is one of those last attractions at Hollywood Studios that really gives you that 1930s, 1940s old Hollywood vibe that you used to get with the Great Movie Ride, which we had that discussion with former Imagineer Brian Collins, who actually got to work on the Great Movie Ride. Definitely anyone who hasn't checked out that video, check that out, please. But once Tower goes, if it goes, it's almost like the traditional old style Hollywood theme for Hollywood Studios is completely dead in the water. That would be my own issue.
Is it Sunset Boulevard at that point? Because that was the kind of the anchor attraction for the whole expansion of the park experience back then. I can't. It's hard. It's hard to think about a theme other than the Twilight Zone to be imbued in that attraction. What are the other implications when it comes to that? Oh, it's just a classic. But you heard it here first. OG55 right here. Die Hard Tower confirmed. Walt Disney World. I think. Simply
with a Bruce Willis animatronic. Let's go.
Perfect. It's for yippee-ki-yay.
There we go. We just dropped down to 500 subscribers.
Right? Yeah.
Yippee-ki-yay, mother.
There you go.
That's what it is right there.
Yes. And Isidoro Rendon is asking, when do you think we are going to hear about Magic Key renewals? And if we do get Magic Key renewals, what do you think it's going to look like? This is funny, Isidoro. I really have no idea. I mean, I think that I think that whatever new program they kind of roll out, which we will definitely get a new program because Disney's getting sued, class action, potential class action suit against them because of the reservation system and how that kind of pertains to the whole blackout language. You know, you guys have all, I'm sure you guys all know, you're familiar with it. They will definitely reimagine the program. I think what we'll probably see is some sort of tier system based on how many reservations you can place at a time. So if you're paying, the $1,500 pass, you'll have X amount of reservations you can hold at a time. The next one down, a little bit less. Next one down, a little bit less. They will get rid of the blackout calendar, though. That calendar will probably be completely eliminated, and it'll be some other, probably how many reservations you can hold at a time, system to measure those various tiers. And then they'll throw in other things like maybe like the more expensive tiers will have parking. The lower tiers won't. They'll have things like that. But look, if Magic Key holders are thinking that Disney's going to reimagine this thing and get rid of reservations, you're out of your mind. Disney loves the reservation system because they know tomorrow how many people are going to show up at that park, and they can staff the park accordingly based on those numbers. So they never understaff, they never overstaff. They can just do just the right amount. It's a money saving thing. The reservation thing is here to stay. It is absolutely here to stay. So they'll tweak it for sure, but the reservations are not going anywhere.
And I would echo that sentiment, but maybe add in a little bit more context that I've heard some information regarding this whole kind of thing, and from what I have understood, look, they're going to have to announce something between now and the August 30th date. Is when those Magic Key systems went live. So they have to announce something between that. And I do think OG is kind of on the right track here. I think the reservation system is, at least as it relates to APs, as it relates to a Magic Key or annual pass program, I don't think is going away. Now, I think there is a good chance that it might be a little bit more nuanced in that, why are we necessarily rating a Saturday the same way as we're valuing maybe a Monday, right? Because it's like, it's just one day, right? You just have the one day that you can allot to any time period. Shouldn't that be a more kind of nuanced operation regarding that? I think they're coming to that conclusion here. Also, too, I think the reservation system, ultimately, I'm not saying that they will implement this in the next round of these Magic Keys and so forth and these renewals, but do we necessarily need a reservation system on days that we know are going to be low? Can we just implement a reservation system for the weekends, for example, or during the summer months, or all those kind of things? I think they're also looking at that. The way I have heard it is by the end of the year, and starting kind of January 1st onward, that maybe, and I can't tell you where I heard this information from, unfortunately, because I don't want to get people in trouble, but I have heard that maybe a reservation system is only going to be applicable to people who do have annual passes and Magic Keys. And that goes for both coasts. And that the only people who will have to make reservations going forward aren't going to be necessarily ticket holders, but people who do have those Magic Keys and APs.
And that actually makes perfect sense, actually, because that's what I had mentioned. Vash, you and I had this conversation when we were talking about when I had my trip, and you stay at a Disney resort hotel, you're allotted and guaranteed those same amount of days that you are staying on property for how many days you have your tickets, you can get a reservation. Where if you're just a ticket holder or an annual pass holder, you have only allotted 3 reservations per week of your allotted time.
Right. So at Walt Disney World, to give people an example, let's say you're staying at Walt Disney World for 2 weeks and you only have maybe 4 reservations to spare. You will be allotted reservations based on the number of days that you're actually staying. So you can stay for the whole full 2 weeks and won't impact, that kind of stuff. that is one of the kind of the ways that annual pass holders have been able to overcome that issue. If they're thinking about getting an annual pass, staying out of state, getting it, they're good for if they stay on property anyway, and that's a good that's a good incentive for people to stay on property, as one can probably imagine. But yeah, I mean, I think the route going forward is it might be an impediment for people to have to get a reservation for like ticket holders and stuff, especially international guests. That might be an issue. So they're thinking about dropping that for ticket holders and implementing various annual pass holder systems just for annual pass holders, right? In order to kind of control that population. That's why we're seeing probably they're going to have like afternoon reservations now and those kind of things. You can't really do that for ticket holders because the ticket value changes there, right? But you can implement that kind of stuff for annual pass holders. So that's kind of, I think, the way they're gonna go about it going forward. There's going to be a little bit more nuance, a little bit more complication, but the idea is to improve access, improve crowd flow, not just for the week, but to the actual day, right? Because I think some parks experience some drop off in the afternoons. Well, if you have afternoon reservations where people can get in, you can more spread, you can more have a more consistent operation when it comes to crowd population and so forth. I think those are the things they're going to be looking at coming up here. Also, to OG, you make a great point about the lawsuit. I think they are going to have language in that TOS when you actually sign that dotted line for that payment or for that cash. Hey, this does not guarantee you a single day of access. Just because you have this AP, it's going to be contingent on you to extract as much value and as much access out of it. So that's coming.
Well, and Disney and Disneyland and Walt Disney World are run completely differently as far as through state by state operation wise and everything. And I find it interesting because as I was finding out on social media platforms and what have you, that I'm looking into booking a trip at Disneyland, but the 2023 Disneyland packages are not out yet. And a lot of people were saying late summer is usually when that comes out. Well, now that's also the same time that the Magic Keys might be implemented. So it's like, I wonder if everything will kind of, the stars will be aligned where if they could actually fix the Magic Keys before the 2023 tickets and packages come out. So that way it's not jumbling where when people, book at the hotels and what have you, at Disneyland to when people can make reservations. Now with Disneyland, with their hotels, does that implement the same as they do with Walt Disney World?
I don't think so. I was trying to look into that issue because I would think that those, at least those two policies might have some overlap there. I don't know for sure. I don't think so because I've never heard about it, but that doesn't mean it hasn't necessarily been implemented in that fashion. It's a little bit more complex implementing a system like that only because there's not enough hotel capacity that the Disneyland Resort can enjoy versus Walt Disney World. So it's just like it's a little tough implementing systems like that, and there has in terms of policy, in terms of like the differences between each resort, I don't think it differs anywhere more than the hotel operation, just because you're talking about a couple thousand rooms versus tens of thousands of rooms.
Right. Wow. Well, we have another question from ClickNet, and ClickNet is asking, do you have any advice for us getting to 4,000 subscribers one day? ClickNet, I don't like, basically, if you do content like this where it's like very kind of opinionated and discussion based, my best advice to you would be just to be 100% honest, whether you think that opinion is going to be popular or unpopular. Like, just be real with your audience. I mean, look, people are smart. They can sense bullshit. Okay. So make sure that you're honest with your audience and let them know, hey, look, you know what? This is how I really, really feel. And I think that's my best advice to you is that people want realness. They don't want to be fed like fake, whatever. So just make sure you're real with it and you'll go far. I think you will, just be yourself and be honest and real. And I think you'll go really far, ClickNet. It takes time though. It really, really does. I've been doing this now since 2016. It takes years. So just stay on it. Just make the best content you can make. Constantly strive for better and better and better, and you'll get there. ClickNet, you absolutely will. And ClickNet, thank you so much. ClickNet's been a supporter of our channel for a long time, and we appreciate that, ClickNet. Thank you, man.
And let it come naturally. Don't just go and like having like a number and saying, oh, I have to get there,
Right.
Because that's where it can hinder your videos. Let it be fluent, let it come naturally, and before you know it, it'll happen like it happened for OG.
Yeah, following algorithms only gets you so far, I think. You really got to, because people can kind of sense that. I think being passionate about a subject and really kind of imbuing that passion, whatever you do, I think is, I think people sense that as well, and I think you'll be rewarded for that. Like George said, I think naturally.
Yeah, you just be natural. If you have whatever content you focus on and you have a passion for it, you're going to go far. So if you just be honest, have that passion, and you'll get there. You'll get there. Absolutely. It's all about passion, because people look, I mean, there's a lot of people that watch OG 55 that don't agree with us on stuff, and they still watch us because people don't want to just hear the same opinion regurgitated. They want to see people that are into the same stuff maybe, but they want to hear different viewpoints. They want to watch someone that has passion and they're excited about something. That's what they want to see, ClickNet, and that's really what it is. And don't, like Dre said, don't go chasing the algorithm, do the best content you can make, and the rest will follow. Quality rises to the top. You know what I'm saying? So if you provide that quality content, the people will come. Just worry about making the content the best you can make it, and everything else will kind of fall into place. And that's the best advice I can give. 100%. 100%. And then Jalen Morris says here, the people of Anaheim don't understand that they'd rather build a Stater Brothers on Catella and Harbor than let Disney expand. Jalen, you are absolutely right, man. That's the thing that makes me so frustrated, Jalen, is that Anaheim has no clue why Anaheim is a thing.
Yeah.
Anaheim is a destination because of Disneyland Resort. Let's be honest. And then the city and the council and all this stuff and the businesses, they all want to fight Disney on expanding. It's like, this is your bread and butter. This is why people are in your city, is because of Disneyland.
But don't you think they would have noticed it when Disneyland was shut down for over a year?
I was just going to say that I think that sentiment, and that's what I was kind of alluding to in even my comments, right? That sentiment definitely did exist, for sure. People didn't quite understand who provides the fuel or the gas for the engine. All right, I think we all kind of understand who actually did that, and when to this point when Disneyland was closed, people found out real fast what actually happened there, and found out, I see. They are the kind of the economic driver for this whole kind of operation there. I mean, one of the most successful and busiest McDonald's in the world was closed. They didn't even decide to open because there was that little traffic. So it can really have profound effects, and that had effects not just for Disneyland, not just for the businesses that rely on there, but even for the people who are employed by those businesses. Right? Think about hotel occupancy and how many housekeepers and so forth relied on that operation being what it was, and I think people got a unique understanding of that, and it was horrible the way it happened, but I think a lot of people have that mindset. So I think this kind of Disney hate, so to speak, I don't think is necessarily as prevalent as it was before.
I mean, other than Disneyland, that if it was still closed, the only reason why I'd be on Harbor Boulevard was to stop at Carl's Jr.
Right, exactly.
National Tourist Destination, Carl's Jr. by George confirmed. I like it. I love it.
There we go. And then ClickNet follows up with, would you consider doing live streams during some of the D23 Expo panels in September? Because I already am. Parks, Disney Live Action, Animation, Pixar, and Lucasfilm. Now, I know George, from what I understand, first of all, I think D23 Expo has been sold out.
Yes, it just sold out today.
They just sold out. It sold out faster than 2019.
The only ticket that's available is just the Sunday.
Right.
Just the single day Sunday ticket.
I think Scott
Or
Gustin just put out
Did they
that
announce
it was
that it sold
right.
out?
Yep, it just
Well,
sold
then,
out completely.
Grab that, folks. It's done.
There you go. I didn't want to lead people in the wrong direction, but I believe it is sold out completely. Look, I'll say this. I think if we could somehow,
because we were talking about this of trying how to implement a live stream, especially with the parks. Now, I do know with the Marvel and Lucasfilm with the live actions, they do not allow anyone to take out any sort of recording device. You actually have to put any device in a Ziploc bag if they're still going to implement that. That's what they had to do the last time. And with the animation and Pixar, anything that has to do with the films, you cannot film or video. Only Disney can do those. Now, for the parks, we're allowed to video.
Yeah, if we could, I don't know, if there was some way we could, I don't know, maybe if somebody else is live streaming the actual panels themselves and we can kind of key in on that footage and comment over it, that might be pretty cool. But we've been talking about it and we have been open to it. It's just kind of finding out the logistics and how that's actually done without copyright flags and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, we don't want to, take some, stream snipe somebody's footage and have them not get credit and all those kind of things. And maybe it might be disrespectful. We're still trying to figure that out. But yes, absolutely. That is a consideration for sure.
Even if it was after the presentation, if I have to do a lot of snapshots and maybe short little video clips where we can kind of take out any audio or commentary that, we won't get flagged, or you could just use still photos, then maybe we can do a recording after the presentation.
Absolutely. And that's kind of our speed and that's kind of how we do things. So.
Right.
For sure. Because it even when those things are going on, it's kind of hard to even talk over them or pause them or whatever, because it's there's something always coming at you and you might miss, relevant information. So I think we're best, what is it? A summation channel rather than a in live time channel.
Yeah,
100%.
And I do have to reconfirm what Vash had already said yesterday. There was actually single day Sunday tickets available, but in a matter of 24 hours, yep, that is, folks. It's all sold out.
Gone. It's gone. And then Jay Shear, our buddy over at Story Geek, says also, this is a follow-up, I think, to ClickNet's question about getting to 4,000 subs and what have you. He says, have solid topics and approach it in a way that no one else is. OG55 is great because they're talking Disney leadership and decision making from a market and fan standpoint. Well, thank you, Jay. That we appreciate that, and we do try to do something a little different here. We when I started the channel in 2016, I wanted to kind of take kind of the Christian Harloff, John Campia model that they use for when they do their content for film and what have you, and bring it into the parks, because that was really sorely missing with the park stuff. A lot of the park stuff, I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of sugary stuff, and it was just kind of it was different. It was different, and I wanted to have a really discussion-based, honest, kind of raw discussion about these parks in a way that we really haven't seen before. So that was kind of my angle with it. But ClickNet, whatever your angle is, do that, right? Just be different, set yourself apart, and just be yourself. And I think you'll go far. I really do. And Jay, thank you so much, man. We appreciate that. We do try to be different here. Definitely. We don't want to just do what everyone else is doing. We really want to have a different kind of approach to all this stuff. And we appreciate you noticing that, man.
OG has his secret ingredients, and then we have a little dab of Vash's Robust and a little pinch of my Balls to the Wall, and then there you go. There's the OG 55 channel.
Now that is a direct reference to the Theme Park Casual who wrote that amazing tweet. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's so awesome to have that, as Christian Wastelands McCarthy would say,
that robust
discussion right there. I think that's pretty good. But no, here's the interesting thing about that, OG, that you brought up so astutely. A lot of people, when they talk about the parks, they talk about it from a very guest perspective, or maybe they might talk about it from a more cast member's perspective, right? So a lot of the podcasts do that and so forth. But on YouTube, especially Disneyland, I mean, there are some out there, but they talk about the operational thing and all that kind of stuff, which I love, which we even bring that sort of thing to this channel and stuff like that. But I think a lot of people maybe necessarily don't understand that a lot of what happens at the corporate end affects the parks. And a lot of people just aren't having that kind of connection or discussion or so forth, right? And they're not establishing those connections and including that in their discussion of the parks. And that's kind of what we kind of wanted to, I think, have kind of naturally brought to the show, and I think it is appealing to a lot of people because what happens here is definitely going to affect you here, and some people don't understand that those things are interconnected in that way, but you can see that throughout history.
You can, and here's the other thing too: is a lot of content creators are kind of nervous to bring up certain things, like even just bringing up Bob Chapek. A lot of people are worried, like, oh, I can't, he's controversial. I don't want to bring him up. We'll just talk Magic Key renewal. We'll just talk, I don't know, we'll talk Genie Plus, or we'll talk about the new Churro or the new Dole Whip or whatever. And that stuff is fine. That's great. We dive into that stuff here on OG55 as well. But you have to dive into the uncomfortable conversations. You have to dive into Bob Chapek. I know a lot of people don't like him, but you got to dive into that. Right? You got to dive into that. You got to dive into the politics. I know a lot of other creators don't want to talk about that, but it's the reality of the situation on the ground when you have the governor of Florida repealing, going after like Reedy Creek, things like that. You have the governor of California limiting Disney's ability, to even like operate here when they close down the parks for 400 and something days because of the pandemic. You have to be able to talk about these subjects. And I know it's uncomfortable, but it's vital to the whole conversation. Like, how do you leave this stuff out?
Because it really, honestly, it's the conversations that people are having in their homes just by themselves, and it's the conversations that people are kind of having in private. But, I seek out people who are having those conversations or have the, I don't know, the goal to have these conversations in public, and I think that's kind of struck a chord with our audience there in kind of a unique way. But to further illustrate this point in terms of like Chapek and how that influences the parks, I mean, just think about it. Like I know I remember experiencing this as a guest firsthand. Riding on Indiana Jones Adventure and seeing this amazing elaborate attraction in 1995, and then 6 years later going on Superstar Limo, and not really like, whoa, what happened here? Like, what was the story behind this? And that's largely because, things happened at the corporate level. They invested in Paris, didn't quite pan out. Frank Wells died. Frank Wells passes away. We kind of get into a new era here. Michael Eisner has his quadruple bypass surgery and how that affected maybe his decision making when it came to Disney California Adventure and what we saw there. So from like a guest perspective, I remember experiencing that, not necessarily understanding what the what the delta between those two attractions, what went into those and how we got the attractions that we did. But a lot of that originated in the corporate level, and that's kind of what we do on OG55, because what happens here will affect here. And I think it's really important to share that information and bring to light why you might be experiencing what you're experiencing when it comes to the parks or the studio or whatever.
And another key factor is one of the biggest ones of them all is you're allowed to disagree. You can disagree. Be civilized, and just have a decent human conversation. Even with us three, not even just with you guys as the viewers or listeners. There's stuff that we don't agree upon, but yet here we are. We have the conversation multiple times a week. And, and another thing is you can't even just sugarcoat even something as simple as a churro or a beverage just because you say, oh, well, I'm in Disney and it's like, oh, this is really good. But then when we get there, it's a load of crap. It's like, it's not being truthful to your audience. And, we'll come right out and say it. And Vash and I has said it many times before, that disgusting PB&J drink at Avengers Campus, I'd rather drink a bowl of sewage than to have that again. It's it's disgusting. But that's it's just the hard truth. And then that's, it's, you may not like it, you may not agree with it, but I think at the end of the day, you respect it.
Right. You just gotta be honest. You just gotta be honest, and you gotta dive into topics that might be a little uncomfortable to talk about. And that because this company, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
It's not all about churros. It's not all about Dole Whips.
Yeah.
There's more to this, and Chapek and the politics are a huge part of all that stuff. 100%. How do you talk about the company and the parks and leave that stuff out is beyond me. I really don't understand it. And I really do want to say real quick, like because today we're celebrating 4,000 subs and we're having a party and all this. And I just want to say really like, and it kind of ties into what we're talking about now. But without these two guys right here, Vash and George, I mean, they are vital to this whole channel. These are my brothers, my best friends. I love these guys. And I just really want to thank both of them because like, it's crazy like how far the channel has come in the past few years. And a big part of that evolution and that progression is because of these two guys. And I want to just thank them. Like, seriously, thank you both for everything you guys do. You tirelessly work. We do this content a lot. We do a lot of content, and we all have jobs outside of this. And I really do appreciate these fellas a lot. So I just want to put that out there.
Well, honestly, we appreciate you, OG, honestly, to give us the opportunity to do this with you, to be part of something that you created. Like this is your channel. Like you created this. This is your logo, your way of how you wanted to do it. And we're just grateful that we're able to be a part of it. Because Vash and I had the conversation over the phone that it's like, the 4,000 sub celebration, it's all because of you. Like this it would not be here. So I have to say, and I'm for sure Vash agrees with me, we thank you for allowing us to be part of it. And I know we're still going to continue on, but here's to another 4,000 subs and to infinity and beyond, my good man. And may the channel be even more successful than Lightyear.
Yeah, hopefully so.
Hopefully so. And CNN Plus and everything else that failed.
Yeah, no, and it's like it's crazy too. Like it's amazing the community we built. Like like going through the chat, right? Theme Park Casual, a buddy of ours. Mm-hmm. That like, I mean, he shares all the videos. He's been on the channel. We love Casual. Absolutely love Casual. The friends that we've met along the way. Ali Aloha, who's also in the chat, friend of the channel, who's been on the channel. We love Alia, this amazing community. I mean, so many people that have been on the channel. Jay, Story Geeks, Wicked Virtue, so many people, and it's just been a really phenomenal trip. Sean ranking the mouse, Kareek, just so many great friends we've made along the way through this whole process, man. It's just been really, really humbling and amazing. And I've been having a really good time. I've been having a really, really good time just doing this whole thing and just coming together with like-minded people. Like, hey, we might not all agree on everything. We probably don't. This is a passionate thing for a lot of people, but at the end of the day, we all share that common familiarity where like, hey, we love these parks, we love these movies, we love this content, we love Star Wars, we love Marvel. This is our shit, we love it, and that's what brings it all together. I just love it. I absolutely freaking love it. And you know what? We'll keep doing our thing. We'll just keep doing our thing. I think it's been a lot of fun. I
echo George's sentiments. Thank you, OG, for giving us the unique opportunity to be a part of it. It's as much as it is our combined success. It is very much your success. You are the reason why we're all here. You're the reason why we're that we've kind of brought something here. It's this community has been started by you, OG, and you deserve full credit for sure. So thank you.
I just love being a part of this whole thing. It's been phenomenal, and it's weird to think too. Like a man that was born in 1901 brought us all together. How freaking weird is that? 1901. We're talking what? I'm terrible at math. What is that? 121 years, something like that. It's incredible, absolutely incredible.
121.
121 years, and we're all here because of that one man. And we started this little community and our little corner of the internet, and it's been a lot of fun. We met a lot of great people. We had a lot of amazing guests on the channel and everything, and it's been a wild ride, as Mr. Toad would say.
Yes.
Robert's asking, how did you guys meet? We met on the channel. That's the thing. We met on the channel. Actually, I met George. He actually submitted. I think you were like, I was doing like Q&As early on, like 2016, and you submitted a few questions, and I would answer your questions, and then I think it just kind of snowballed from there, right? I think it was like we
because I sent you out a tweet after you read one of my questions. And I kind of like made that joke, and that's what kind of broke the ice, was like, you're like one of the only people that got my last name correct. And so it was like, and then it just kind of just like snowballed into like a bigger conversation. And then I had OG on as a guest with a previous podcast that I was part of. So then then it's like, and then he started having me on his channel, and then lo and behold, he said, did you check out my recent video? He said, I have this guy on but goes by the name of VashSky. And I said, no, I didn't watch the recent video yet. I said, I have to. And he said, you should really check him out. Like, he like goes like really in depth with all this stuff. I mean, like more than I've ever seen anyone go. I'm like, okay, I'll check him out. And I started watching the video. I'm like, damn, this guy knows his shit. So it's like, and I messaged OG and I said, oh man, I have to be on. Next time you have Vash on, I have to be on. And it's like, then that just sparked a friendship between Vash and I. So the three of us just kind of clicked, and then Vash got his segment of Freshly Squeezed on the channel, and then OG approached me and saying, why don't you do something with Walt Disney World and the cruise lines, being that you're on the East Coast? And then we were talking in cahoots of like what would the channel, the segment for the channel be. We came up with Citrus Corner, and it's just like it just clicked, like when something, and it's honestly going back to what Walt says, like when something works, you'll know it. And it's like, if Walt saw us today for the three of us, he'd probably just stand, shake his head and say, that'll do. That'll work.
Yeah.
That'll do.
And Dre, we kind of met, I think, through like our love for Star Wars. I remember talking to you, like texting back and forth about like The Force Awakens, the lead up to that whole thing. And right. And then we kind of went through that whole thing. And then the first show I had Vash on was a Star Wars show.
Yes. Yeah. I believe that. I think that's correct, because we're talking about the studio side of things, and I was very much more well versed in the park side of things, but I could definitely contribute for sure, and maybe have a little bit more of a nuanced discussion about Star Wars that wasn't quite, I don't know, I don't know if shill's the right word, but just like from just everything's going great perspective.
Right.
Or even not even just like a Phantom Menace perspective. I kind of wanted to go in a more kind of nuanced direction, and with a little bit, a little bit center or middle of the road perspective, because I think there was both good and bad going on with that whole thing, which is going to be an interesting conversation going forward concerning Star Wars. But we'll get to that. But yeah, I think that's what we were kind of going on about. And I remember you reaching out to me saying, hey, I want to start a YouTube channel. And it's like, oh, that's freaking awesome, because I have loved your insight for Twitter on Twitter for years at that coming up at that point. So the idea that you were going to start a YouTube channel was extremely exciting. I remember you sending me the first video and it's like, hey, how was that? And I go, well, you might need a little, maybe a microphone to go along with that upload, which you eventually got, and and once that happened, you were off to the races, and it was fantastic content. But to have me on, that was a distinct privilege, and I think you saw maybe my 60 tweet thread on the reopening of Disneyland. And I think you said, Yeah, which people can see right there if you want to share that. I don't know if you do or not, but I still have it pinned on my Twitter account if anybody wants to see it. But that took like weeks of research to do, and a huge amount of time was poured into that to make that possible. And I think OG, I think you reached out, you said, yeah, you could do that a lot easier on like in a video format, and it's like, yeah, I think you're right. So that's kind of how I really got involved with the channel. Unfortunately, I didn't know George's work prior to actually meeting him, but now that obviously we've hung out and we've had an amazing friendship that's blossomed because of this. And I've recently gone back and have distinct appreciation for his work. But that's kind of how we met, and that's why we give all the onus or the credit to OG, is because he kind of brought us together in a way. He sought us out. And integrating us into his channel, and for that, I mean, he's the
captain of the ship.
He's the captain of the ship, but his instincts are just amazing when it regards to that.
Really.
So,
and what you see on screen with us three is as genuine as you could possibly get. Like, this is us. This is how we are with one another. And when we say that we're family, we're brothers, we really mean that. It's not a facade. I mean, we really, truly mean it. And when I hang out with these two at Disneyland, I already did it twice. Going to make it a number 3 coming this September. And I tell you what, I have some of the best times, the best moments that I could have ever had at a Disney park by hanging out with these two gentlemen right
100%.
here.
Love you guys.
100%.
Love you guys. And it really is. We really did form an amazing friendship, and the community we have here with a lot of them in the chat today, and it really is something really special. Dre, I actually didn't want to act. Okay, this is going to be very cringy for me.
Okay,
but I think that it might be fun for the audience. I'm going to send you because I don't have the ability to do this, but I'm going to send you my very first video.
Oh, yes. Here we go.
Yeah,
here we go.
Mr. California.
Take my hand. Let's go to Cringetown, USA, y'all.
Let me load this up here. Get this all ready here.
Let's do it. The very first video on OG 55. This is going to be cringe-tacular, baby.
Yeah.
I literally just watched this a few weeks ago. This is awesome.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. You ready?
Very first video, OG 55.
Hey everyone, so this is my channel. I'm starting. Basically, we're just going to talk about Disney news. That includes Star Wars, Pixar, general Disney news, theme parks. So my name is Christopher, and this first episode is actually going to be about the Guardians of the Galaxy Tower of Terror makeover. Now, the elephant in the room is, the artwork that was released a couple months ago was, in my opinion and a lot of people's opinions, was pretty bad, okay? But overall, I'm actually pretty excited about this new approach to Tower of Terror. And the reason being is I think overall we had the weakest tower out of all the towers at other Disney parks, aside from Paris, which actually has the same one that we have. But I think for the ride itself, the actual experience, I think it's going to be a much better experience. I think they're really going to come and really bring us a really cool, different take on this ride. Now, my only concern with the Guardians redo is really about the look of the building and how it fits into the overall area and the theme. So, it's still, to me, we still don't know if there's going to be Marvel Land that will take over all of Hollywood. Will Marvel Land be like a sub area? And, there's a lot of rumors now, too, that the Monsters, Inc. Ride and the old Muppets and that whole area will become Marvel as well. So there's a lot of questions. What's going to happen? They just opened the Frozen stage show at the Hyperion. So if you have Guardians on this end and you have the Marvel area over by the Monsters, Inc., are they going to connect the two? Are they going to get rid of Frozen? So what's going to happen? that's really my biggest concern right now, is how are they gonna, incorporate this into the larger picture, and that's my big fear. I want it to be somewhat at least loosely tied.
Oh, you can't do anymore.
Yeah, right. It's like, oh god.
Now, OG, I have to ask you, OG, do you still have that Oswald shirt?
I do have that Oswald shirt.
So I have a request for you.
Sure,
Every
sure.
time that we do like the anniversary or anything, that has to be your shirt.
Yeah.
That has to be your
that'd
shirt.
be cool.
That's cool. You're right. Absolutely. Well, the 6-year anniversary is coming up in September. I'll definitely do that. I'll rock that Oswald shirt. You got to do it. Got to do it.
That'd be fantastic. Now, were you kneeling in that?
No, I was sitting on a chair. It was like a fold out chair, and then I had a book the iPad that I was using was like on like balancing on like books and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
It was just very, very like kind of like makeshift kind of situation.
Oh, I mean, hey, look, listen, we've all been there. I don't know. I'll look up my first appearance so that way you don't have to live in cringe town by yourself here, because I think that's a very interesting thing. Well, we've all been there though. We've all been just kind of like, hey, let's just make it work for now, and then we can work on it later.
Well, and that kind of plays to also what ClickNet was asking earlier about like becoming a better like channel and getting more subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
Just start recording, like, because you'll get better as you go. My first video was freaking terrible. You couldn't even hear me. But as you go, you'll get better. You'll get more comfortable. Everything will kind of like just kind of fall into place. And George, you've been doing it for a while too. Like you can kind of vouch for me, right? Like the mob.
Absolutely.
You can vouch for me, right?
Yes, Italiano.
Right? And you can kind of same idea. Like you get better as you go.
Well, I tell you what, my first time, and I wasn't even in front of a camera. Mine was just strict audio. So it was like, and I was still cringing to the fact of like, oh my God, I'm gonna mess this up. Am I gonna stutter? Am I gonna jumble my words? And it's like, and that was just with the audio. So I mean, then to have to do it in front of the camera with audio and visuals. And honestly, I'm the type of person that I don't like to watch myself. Like after something's being recorded, I'm like I like cringe at it, but I still do it for the fun of it. But I'm like Johnny Depp in that sense. It's like when that product is done, it's like
right. I never watch my movies,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, I'll have this on the screen here when OG actually gets back. But look, listen, we've all kind of been there. We've all kind of been in those situations where, it's you don't like watching yourself back, right? Because of how maybe you stumbled over your words like I am often tend to do. You see, here's the thing. I think this is my first appearance on here. I think it was Mandalorian discussion, right? I think that's what it was, or something Star Wars related.
Star Wars.
Come on, bro. Come on. You're bleached out in terms of your visuals, man. Like the mics tap in the camera. What's that background doing? Like what in the heck?
I was going to say, like when you put that up, I thought, oh gee, when'd you get Eminem on? It's like,
yeah, exactly, right. Oh, what was I thinking here? Yeah.
Yeah, actually, honestly, you don't really look that bad though.
Don't look that bad.
No.
Oh.
Yeah,
well, you look good, man. You just don't have the fancy lighting in the background like you do now, like the whole like Tron like PC in the background with like the lights and all that cool. But it's not a bad setup, dude. It's not bad. It's better than an iPad balancing on a bunch of books on a fold-out chair.
I guess so. I it's the funny thing is I'm using the exact same camera that I'm that I used here as I do now. It's just I've taught myself how to use it properly, you know, and it's you're just kind of getting by. But, you know, as you kind of look over your work, and sometimes it's important to look over your work, right?
100%.
Just as George, you know, I'm kind of in the same vein of him. I kind of hate listening to myself, but you kind of have to in order to get better, in order to kind of, you know, feed into, you know, look at what the audience is looking at and kind of saying to yourself, like, ooh, hey, what kind of, if I was a viewer watching this myself, what kind of what I would want, and so to speak, and how would I improve things, and maybe looking at those comments and seeing, you know, what they want and so forth, and it's just all that kind of stuff. A good thing you do, OG, and this is what I love about you: the interaction, the audience interaction, the participation, you liking comments, going over the comments section, participating in the chats when things premiere. It's a huge thing. I think our viewers really appreciate that.
I love the interaction. I mean, it makes the channel. It really does, because it's like they contribute so much to what we do here. There's been entire videos we've actually done that have been based on a viewer question or comment. You know, like perfect example. Recently, we did a video on and our buddy Sean. We love Sean, Ranking the Mouse, right? And he kind of pulls our channel a lot because we talk a lot about Bob Iger. And we made a whole video for like an hour about his comment. And respectfully, you know, we were just talking about it, but it was like that made for really great content, because it's like I really enjoyed having that kind of like I don't know what you want to call it, like conversation or analysis on what Sean was kind of like what he was saying about what we do, right? And it really sparked a lot of great debate. And that's what really makes the channel, like, that's what makes it so much fun. It is kind of like, you know, riffing off of like the audience. That's why I love these live shows so much. We have everyone in here like ClickNet and Crystal Ray and Theme Park Casual and Jay and everybody. It's just fun to kind of like take what they're thinking and kind of riff off of that and give our opinions. I just love all that. I absolutely love that. That's what makes it fun. That community. Hey, we're all around the fire just talking about Disney and this nerd shit that we love, right?
Absolutely.
It's fantastic. It's absolutely 100%. Fantastic, you know? So
100%.
It's pretty cool. So I don't know, but now before we close it out, I guess Vash, you wanted to discuss a little Star Wars before we close it out?
Yeah, I wanted to discuss a little bit Star Wars. I don't know whether or not I don't know if it's worth doing a whole video on, but I kind of wanted to include a segment in here. Hey, maybe you can kind of clip it out and share it to the audience later if it does get that good. But I wanted to. Here's how I'll start things off here. It's interesting here. Let me get this all settled up here. Let me see. These. If you go ahead and share my screen here real fast. This is kind of interesting. You know, a lot of people have been kind of like wondering, you know, what's going on with Star Wars and why aren't movies coming out, right? Why aren't we getting that kind of same level of investment that maybe occurred at the beginning of the Star Wars or Lucasfilm acquisition that we experience now? And here's might be some inclinations or some red flags that might have popped up recently that might indicate the health of Star Wars right now and maybe the future of it. The Kenobi numbers, the Obi-Wan Kenobi numbers that showing the finale, its week and how it did in streaming as compared to everybody else, just was published by Nielsen. And as you can see there, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi's a distant third. By the way, this is the finale here to The Umbrella Academy and Stranger Things. But it's not just like, you know, just barely third. It's like, you know, Netflix's shows are surpassing it by like 3 times. What Obi-Wan Kenobi actually did itself. And that really kind of shows like, man, this brand is kind of diminished just in terms of its like pop culture. I don't know. Its place within pop culture. It's kind of it's what is it? Studio, audience engagement and how they engage with brands and franchises. It really has kind of taken a step back to some of these other franchises, and it's not looking too good here. And we just had our second indication that this might actually be happening in terms of what's actually going on in Disneyland Paris. Interestingly enough, and I think DSNY had a really good portion of his video that really kind of highlighted this. And if I can play just a little bit of that, I think people might have maybe a unique impression on it. So let me see here. Let me just go ahead and play this.
Disney Studios park expansion that's still up in the air at the moment, as when the transformation plans were originally announced in February 2018. Mentioned as part of this expansion was the addition of a Star Wars themed land that was supposedly targeting a completion by 2025, and this land would have likely featured Rise of the Resistance, as despite it never being officially stated, within the local governmental documentation that's been published, clearly the building's shape and layout matched that of Rise of the Resistance.
And that's what we were hearing. We were hearing that they were going to go with Rise of Resistance over maybe the two attractions like Smuggler's Run and so forth, because there is kind of a language barrier when it comes to the visitation of Disneyland Paris. That's why a lot of the attractions don't feature a lot of dialogue or a lot of narration, because it's like you have to cater to a lot of these distinct peoples that come from all over Europe. So that's kind of why they were going with maybe Rise of the Resistance take and putting it in Black Spire Outpost and omitting Smuggler's Run entirely. So it was kind of an interesting idea, but he continues, if you can share just a little bit here.
Despite the blue sky concept art showing elements of the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run exterior instead, which does make sense as the interactivity between guests required for the Falcon attraction would have been a logistical nightmare catering to the diverse set of languages spoken at Disneyland Paris. But throughout the 4 years of development and construction so far, there have been hints along the way that the Star Wars themed land had been substantially delayed, as no specific detailed permits had been filed with the local government, and all mentions of the land had been omitted from numerous marketing materials by Disney. But now, the president of Disneyland Paris, Natasha Rafalski, has gone on record about the topic. As when asked about the inclusion of the Star Wars themed land, Rafalski stated that they are still working on the third theme, which isn't saying that the Star Wars land has been cancelled for definite, but it does draw into question and alludes to exploring other options as well.
And that's the kind of indication there. So we're seeing diminishing returns when it comes to like the streaming numbers and these, historically, I mean, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader. These aren't, minor characters here. These are some of the biggest characters that Star Wars has to offer. And yet it's, a distant third to Stranger Things and the Umbrella Academy on Netflix. I mean, that's just inconceivable. And yet here we are. We're seeing maybe Star Wars Galaxy's Edge be entirely dropped from these long-range plans that Disneyland Paris has in its future. And we haven't seen a major film even be developed or produced since The Rise of Skywalker there. And it's just all of these things that are just like, what is going on with Star Wars? I think the brand's pristine image as it was thought of when it was acquired has kind of dropped off here, and I wanted to get your guys' take on that.
Yeah, were those numbers was that for specifically the finale episode?
That was the finale episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
That's interesting. And then I wonder if, and I don't know the answer to this, I'm just kind of riffing a little bit here. Do you think that the weekly release schedule is affecting these numbers as opposed to like a binge approach that Netflix does, where people can watch? Because from what I understand, these numbers are based on like hours watched or minutes watched. So if you have the entire series, I watched Stranger Things, the latest season, and there's a lot of material there. And each episode is like an hour and a half. That might play into the numbers a little bit because there's just more minutes available than Kenobi. Like Kenobi's episode is only 40 minutes and it's weekly, where Stranger Things, they drop the whole thing and each episode is an hour and a half. Do you think that might have something to do with it though, a little bit, to be fair,
Oh, to be fair, you might have something here. You might have something there because there are different release schedules when it comes to this. I was looking into it and seeing what was included here in That Park Place article. Okay, here are the streaming ratings for the original shows during Obi-Wan Kenobi's final week. So I guess it might be the shows in totality, and with the finale actually having coming out. having come out at that point. Maybe that was added to these totals here. So we're looking at the Battle of the Century rematch between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it's not necessarily up to snuff that maybe Stranger Things and Umbrella Academy is. Maybe this is a total figure, not just for the week.
Yeah.
To your point, but
now
again,
that does speak to as far as the streaming process goes. But now when it comes to for Disneyland Paris and kind of delaying Galaxy's Edge, I think that's a whole nother kind of conversation that is again leaning more towards like what is up with Lucasfilm, because it just goes to show that Disneyland Paris does not have the faith in Galaxy's Edge moving forward, because it was such a span amount of time from when the domestic parks got Galaxy's Edge to now when Paris is. And right now, the one base storyline that's actually hurting Galaxy's Edge right now is I'm going to say it again, is the Reylo concept. It's like Rey and Kylo and Rey. It's like, we're done with it. It feels like a never-ending episode of Days of Our Lives. It's like, can we move on to another type of project or storyline? And maybe that's why that they're not necessarily delaying Galaxy's Edge indefinitely, but maybe delaying what is going to be Galaxy's Edge as far as for Paris's story plot goes.
Yeah, it's interesting. The comment section is talking about the Nielsen numbers, and to Alia's to her comment. I think this speaks to what you're maybe alluding to, but even more extreme. So everybody's saying that Nielsen doesn't actually separate between seasons. They do it in total shows. So with Stranger Things having obviously a lot more episodes to chew on and to stream through, maybe that points to why there's a disparity between these numbers and the way that there is. It's a very, very good astute point. I will say that might be why. Looks like I might have to get some more information on this very, very point, but still, I don't think it changes the overall kind of argument that maybe Lucasfilm is in a tough situation, as George alluded to. The fact that they're not going to go forward with a Star Wars Galaxy's Edge section in Disneyland Paris as part of this kind of $2.3 billion overhaul that they're undergoing right now, that says something. It says something nice and loud there, and that might point to, I don't know, Lucasfilm, WDI, maybe their faith in Star Wars and implementing something like that for Disneyland Paris and that unique audience right there. But we still haven't seen a film go through. We still haven't seen a film. What is it? Be developed and produced since Rise of Skywalker. I mean, it's like 3 years ago. And we see Marvel coming out with film after film after film. Why isn't Star Wars on that same pace? It does speak to something actually happening within the studio.
No, it does speak to something. And Alia says here that she's a Reylo. And actually, I was a Reylo too. I got to be real with you. I like the idea of these two kind of characters coming together.
I do too. But I think that's where it kind of... It's like after overputting it so much, it's like Groundhog Day. It's like coming home and you having the same dinner over and over again. It's like you get sick of it. But yeah, in all actuality, I enjoyed of how they kind of had like this love-hate relationship where you didn't know quite where it was going, and then how it ended. It's actually kind of interesting. My thing is just there's just too much of it everywhere. It's like they depend on those laurels with that.
They do, and they definitely need to expand. Like there are the Reylos, there are the sequel trilogy fans, but there's a lot of other Star Wars fans out there. The OG trilogy, the prequel trilogy, which look, I'm not really of the prequel era. Like I was a little older when that came out, but I love those movies. I love Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor and all that. I love that era of Star Wars. I want to see more of that. I'm an older dude. I'm 43, but I want to see more of the prequel stuff too. I don't want to just go into Galaxy's Edge and just see Kylo and Rey. They're great characters. That's awesome, but I also want to see other stuff. And Galaxy's Edge is a very big land, 14, 15 acres. They can definitely respect the timeline by separating these characters in different areas of the land and give all generations of Star Wars fans a little something to chew on. I agree with the overall sentiment that, like, look, you know what? You can't just keep going to the sequel trilogy. There's other Star Wars fans out there. Come on. Like, let's get some Han, Luke, Leia.
Mandalorian and Grogu. That alone, you just do a meet and greet. That would bring that land to have an over amount of a pulse. Just Grogu alone.
For clarity, I looked into this a little bit, just for clarity for our audience.
Sure.
OG, go ahead and share my screen right here. This is total minutes viewed during the week of June 13 and 19th. So it's not the totality of Stranger Things or The Umbrella Academy or Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's just who viewed what during these weeks. That's what that is. So I think that maybe provides maybe a little bit more clarity. It's not going over the totality of these things, but just who was streaming what when. So that's okay. Sorry, I thought we need to.
But when you do total minutes though,
sure.
Stranger Things comes in with a huge advantage because I just watched the whole season.
Yeah,
and each episode's like an hour and a half.
There's more content.
You're going to have naturally more minutes viewed than a Kenobi that only has a 40-minute episode, only 6 of them.
Right. And that is a very astute observation right there, and that obviously should be part of this conversation, which is why I wanted to get to what were the base numbers, where were they pulling them from, and then I think to your point, OG, I think that does provide a little bit more clarity.
Do you think that's part of Disney Plus's issue is just doing a sort of like a 6-7 episode miniseries rather than do like an extensive series like Stranger Things does? Maybe not necessarily with Obi-Wan Kenobi, but like extend the branch out to where it's like you have a full-on series rather than it just be like a mini series.
Yeah.
If you're using established characters, I would think that a mini series could necessarily be more as successful or more successful than a series that featured a bunch of episodes and so forth. It is quite interesting. You get into this debate of maybe Netflix's model of releasing an entire season or a portion of a season. I think they break up Stranger Things season 4.
I think so.
Between 2 parts.
I think. Don't quote me. I think they did.
Yeah. So it's like there has been some debate. Is the episode a week model more successful or as successful, or is the other form more successful? There is definitely this debate here. I think the overall point, though, is to what we were saying here. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge should be a celebration of all things Star Wars. I don't think it lives and dies by any one season of a certain show or certain character or certain portion of the timeline. It really should be a celebration of all things that Star Wars has to offer that people kind of expect from that. We've been talking about this in some recent shows. Level of expectation. If you put Star Wars on that, right? If you put that label on there, what do people necessarily expect from that? I think a lot of people expect Darth Vader or Han Solo, or obviously they had the Millennium Falcon, but Chewbacca and maybe with this distinct group of guests, it's Anakin, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's kind of all these things. Right. Well, shouldn't Star Wars maybe reflect that in some way? Shouldn't it live up to those distinct expectations and have those be represented in that land? And right now, it just really isn't. So maybe it's WDI going back to the drawing board and saying, hey, if we do another Star Wars Galaxy's Edge or another Star Wars land, maybe we should incorporate some of these things in order for the land to better reflect maybe somebody's perception or expectations going into it, right? So that way we don't have this timeline problem where we're kind of nailed down and we kind of can't get out of that. Maybe they are doing that. In DSNY's video, he himself alludes to them maybe going with a different IP entirely, something like Avatar or something, to replace that area, which is kind of like, whoa. Yeah, we might be on the precipice of Avatar being selected over Star Wars. I mean, that's just kind of a crazy thing. It's
because,
like, why is that?
I mean, the second Avatar sequel comes out December 16th of this year.
Right.
So I wonder if they just kind of put it on hold to maybe see where the numbers are at the box office.
Yeah.
And then that can kind of, because if you even tie that into what the numbers are showing for Obi-Wan, that would still blow it way out of the water, and maybe see where it is with the French viewers, for Avatar, like when they, what is their approach to it? Maybe Star Wars really isn't that big, to the French culture as maybe might be Avatar. So if that is the case, then
I was thinking maybe, but you have two Star Wars attractions in Disneyland Paris right now: Star Tours, the Adventures Continue, and their Hyperspace Mountain is kind of an overlay of the a Space Mountain that existed there, but it's kind of like a permanent overlay. It's not going anywhere. That's kind of how it is. I think Star Wars was chosen because with that European audience, I think they did view Star Wars in maybe a better light than maybe the Asian market did, and I think that's why they were leaning into it. But the fact that would be omitted now
to what the Galaxy's Edge.
Well, and I think it's interesting because we got Galaxy's Edge and then Avengers Campus, right? Yeah. And I think there were certain lessons that were learned with Avengers Campus. Well, now Disneyland Paris is getting Avengers Campus first. So it also sets a different kind of expectation, right? Like
moving backwards.
This is a place.
Yeah.
This is a place where I can see all my Marvel characters. And if you go with a Galaxy's Edge in the way that it exists today, that's so timeline limiting. Maybe that's a different thing for them, or it would be a different thing for them in terms of like, hey, I thought this was going to be a celebration of Star Wars, not too dissimilarly how Avengers Campus was a celebration of all things Marvel. Yeah. So I think that could affect it as well.
It's going to be interesting. I look, if I was advising Paris, and I'm not obviously, but I would say don't dump Star Wars per se, but kind of rethink the approach. So maybe go in there and have it a little bit more timeline fluid, where you can have the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, the sequel trilogy, go that route with it. I don't know. I think that would be the best. Star Wars is a very popular franchise. I just think with Galaxy's Edge, they sort of missed the boat in terms of that narrow focus of that timeline. If they want to kind of reimagine Batuu into something more that's more encompassing of all three eras, and even like the animation stuff, like the Filoni stuff and all that for like the youngins, do that, Avatar's a risk. Avatar's a big risk. The first movie did great. We don't know what the next one's going to do. Although, to be fair, I wouldn't count James Cameron out. This dude freaking delivers almost every single time. Titanic was like a 7-hour movie or something. And that movie did amazing at the box office. I would never underestimate James Cameron. But it's interesting. It is very, very interesting. But I would reimagine the approach for Galaxy's Edge instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater and saying we'll go with something totally new. I think Star Wars is a great theme. I just think they need to readdress how they approach it.
And DSNY alludes to the references, WDI maybe waiting on what happens with Avatar 2 before making a final decision on that kind of thing. Because it's like, okay, well, that's going to be contingent on a lot of different things. Let's just wait for those kind of things to play out before actually going forward with that idea. It's fascinating though. I mean, you saw San Diego Comic-Con. We had an image of the new Avengers films that are coming out, and there's even more, like a new Blade, obviously. There's a new Daredevil show, as people including in the chat there. There's a whole bunch of stuff coming on the Marvel front. Did you guys hear what was coming to Star Wars? You didn't, because it was just a bunch of comic books and some other, associated material. Right. And it's like, okay, well, that's cool, but it's doesn't quite make the same splash.
Did they mention
anything
Did they mention anything with Andor?
They did show the trailer for Andor. Yes.
See, it just shows how much.
Just
how much I didn't even really pay attention to it.
See,
I paid more attention to Marvel.
That's the thing there. That's kind of what I'm kind of alluding to. That's kind of what I'm kind of attempting to say is like, why isn't this at the forefront like it should be? Right. Why isn't it lighting the world on fire like we all expected it to? You know, and it kind of speaks to the overall health of Star Wars, and I don't think it's looking good. I think a lot of people have maybe convinced themselves in their minds that it's just as strong or even stronger than Marvel. And it's like that's not really the case when you look at the output.
Because when Iger announced both Galaxy's Edges for Walt Disney World and Disneyland, I mean, that was the most hype I've ever seen an audience at a D23 Expo. I mean, like they were like jumping up on top of their seats. Like they couldn't, like it was wild. And that's the kind of Star Wars that I'm so used to seeing. But it seems like once Galaxy's Edge opened, I think everyone had a completely different vision of what Galaxy's Edge was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Than walking into it. And it just became so underwhelming. Yeah. Now it's like moving forward. It's like, well, what do we have to look forward to? Yeah. Rise of the Resistance is awesome. It's don't worry, casual. I'm cotton too. I don't want to make myself tipsy here. But that Rise is great, but as you had mentioned, Vash, it's like if they're getting Avengers Campus first, then they're going to have to move backwards and have to evaluate of what Galaxy's Edge is supposed to be.
Yeah. We're going to have a D23 Expo kind of thing whenever we say it now, because it's like everything's kind of there's a lot hinging on this. Well, we'll see what actually ultimately happens, but it's just when I was going over it and everything, and unfortunately I didn't have maybe I should have spent a little bit more time on research there, going into all of this and everything. I was just a little bit dismayed because Star Wars was like the brands of brands, it was the gold standard. It was what everybody kind of wanted in their content library. And I do think it was a shrewd move for Bob Iger to buy it, Lucasfilm, with Star Wars when he did. And I was hoping I think we all were hoping for some really big things. And,
but we also have the thing too, as part of Lucasfilm, we have another kind of movie / franchise that we were all anticipated was Indiana Jones.
Yep.
So it's like now with this coming out, is that even going to put Star Wars even on the back burner further? Because depending on how well this film goes, and then that could even put, as we were talking with, it's been rumors and talking about everything of them even incorporating more Indiana Jones in the parks. So it's like depending on how this film goes. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting that you bring it up.
It's fascinating. And we're hearing a lot of talk of like, what's Jon Favreau going to be doing here? Some people are intimating that maybe he's half in, half out. Maybe he's going into the direction that's away from Star Wars. Kathleen Kennedy's contract is up for renewal in 2023. Is she necessarily going to be extended? Is this kind of studio paused for all films Star Wars as a result of her coming up on the end of her contract here? I don't know if Indiana Jones is going to be successful or not. I hope it is. It's I don't know. I mean, it's not a surefire thing by any stretch. And it's going to be really fascinating to see what happens with this brand of brands here. But I did want to kind of relay some of this stuff to the audience and kind of get their perspective on things. I think, OG, you make a great point about the Nielsen numbers. I'll do a little bit more research to find out what's going on there. But it's the Disneyland Paris thing, the lack of Star Wars movies.
It shows.
Frustrating thing.
It's definitely something to bring up. It's definitely something to talk about, because there is, despite the Nielsen numbers, there is a little bit of an issue with Star Wars. It definitely does have a hype problem that Marvel isn't seeing. Now, to be fair, Marvel is sort of seeing a decrease. I do notice that right now with their Phase 4 stuff. We talked about this yesterday with Wicked Virtue. Marvel it's all not rainbows and roses for Marvel either right now, but they are definitely in a better position than Star Wars right now, And I think that it's definitely going to have to. I think Star Wars has to they're really going to have to recalibrate, reimagine, or redo with their whole battle plan. And I think it all comes from, and I know I'm going to get a lot of crap probably in the comments. It all stems from Kathleen Kennedy. They need new leadership, fresh blood, fresh eyes. Just restart the whole thing. Just restart everything with somebody new, Jon Favreau, and go from there. But until they do that, it's going to have a stink on it. It's still going to feel like the old.
Can I ask a question? And this may sound ignorant or rude,
absolutely
or what have you, but you know what? I go balls to the wall.
Yeah, exactly. No, censor.
I go balls to the wall. So here we go. With Kathleen Kennedy, you see all these presidents and CEOs of what they. Can I really ask, what does she do?
Ever see that movie Office Space?
Yes.
When the Bobs would say, "What exactly do you do here?"
My stapler and everything. I do things. Yeah, exactly right. What is it that you do here?
Look, not to disparage her, she's a brilliant producer. Yeah. She's done amazing work.
And actually, yeah, I'm just asking, what does she really do? Like, I don't see her out promoting, marketing, like nothing. I don't see her doing anything.
Well, the interesting thing is she did not make an appearance at San Diego Comic-Con. She didn't make the best appearance, I would say, or best showing at Star Wars Celebration recently. Apparently, she's still in Europe for some reason. Even before Chapek was announced.
She's trying to convince Paris to still build Galaxy's Edge.
Maybe. It's kind of weird how she is being minimized, in terms of her presence, and some people have alluded to, and I think Alia mentioned right there, where she'll be almost, she will be 70 years old soon. She's 69 now, so she's going to be 70 by the time her contract is up here. Maybe she's setting herself up for, retirement. And, she's wanting Indiana Jones to be that kind of swan song. And maybe, a lot of people have said why she might be pushing for a release date of Taika Waititi Star Wars film by 2023. Getting that in as one last hurrah before her contract actually expires. Maybe she doesn't get renewed as a result. We've heard some new talks of maybe Disney's looking to go in a direction when it comes with the Star Wars property. And I think you're right, OG. I think that person who might be in the best position to kind of take Star Wars into a bold and brand new direction is Jon Favreau, and he's in the studio. He's in the building right now.
Right.
So do we not just lead into that? Do we just have him be that Star Wars guy? Maybe that's why the Star Wars output on the film side of things has been paused in order for it to kind of give it that kind of window, to just kind of give it that kind of breather from the Kennedy era, so that can it can be started up again in the Jon Favreau era. Maybe that's why.
But and remember, Favreau was one of the architects of the MCU.
Yes, he was.
So the guy knows what he's talking about, and he's been on camera, he's been behind the scenes, he very much understands Hollywood. He really is the guy, and that's why it's so frustrating to even have any kind of question about, he is the guy. Just give the job to Jon Favreau.
Yes.
And I'm not saying you got to humiliate Kathleen Kennedy. I don't want that. She is very much a what's it called? A distinguished person in this field, in this industry. She's done amazing work. She got an incredible resume. Let her leave with dignity. That's fine. I'm not saying fire her like Peter Rice, right? but she needs to step down, and we need someone like Favreau in there with some fresh eyes and just kind of go in there and just sort of revitalize the franchise. I think once you do that, everything else will fall into place. A lot of fans don't like Kennedy for what it is. They just don't like her. And I think that until you replace her, you're going to have like this overall kind of fog over the company or studio. You got to get rid of Kennedy, put someone in there fans do like a Favreau. And I think the franchise would benefit greatly from that. Imagine an D23 Expo where you have a studio panel where Kevin Feige gets up there and talks about Marvel, and then up next is Jon Favreau with Lucasfilm. The energy in that fucking room would be insane.
Oh, it'd be insane.
You don't want to have that with Kathleen Kennedy. She's too corporate. She's more of a Bob Iger or even a Bob Chapek. She's not the same. She's not cut from the same cloth as a Feige. She's not, or a Favreau. You need a Feige or a Favreau in there to really do what they got to do. So, we're going over 2 hours. So we're gonna have to cut it pretty soon. But I just think overall, that's the problem with Lucasfilm right now. Is I just think they need someone exciting in that position to kind of get the fans pumped up. Marvel has that person with Feige. Star Wars really doesn't. Kennedy is a very corporate head, and it's just not inspiring to have her get up there and read the script and da 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 da. No one wants that. They want the person who has passion for this stuff, and Kennedy isn't it. She's not.
But my one concern, going back with you had mentioned about the upcoming Star Wars film, is with that.
Kennedy, I need to see you in my office immediately.
Is that what you kind of were wanting there? Because that's I was looking forward to that, OG. I don't know about you, but
there you go, unceremoniously.
And to Alia's point here, I mean, she has kind of upset a lot of people with all these productions, right? And the one person that's been able to successfully bring them all together, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. That's the duo right there. But I'm so sorry. To your point, George.
No, I was just going to mention with her trying to push the new Star Wars film out. But if anyone who has seen Thor: Love and Thunder, that is my main concern with this pushing this Star Wars film up, because if they start going that route with Lucasfilm that they are with the last Marvel films, then you know what, Lucasfilm might as well should just be dead in the water. I'm sorry, I have to say it like it is, but if this new Star Wars film is anything like Thor: Love and Thunder,
we're done.
Done. You're done.
I have my doubts that Taika Waititi is the solution to Star Wars' woes.
Yeah, no, I have my doubts as well. Now, look, I'm not a fan of Taika's humor at all. I think it's cringy. I could barely get through Thor Ragnarok. I understand it's an unpopular opinion. I have not seen Love and Thunder. I probably will hate it because it doubles and triples down on the Ragnarok humor, which I freaking hated. But to be fair to Taika, he did a pretty good job at the Mandalorian episodes, so I will give him a fair shake. But but like you said, George, if he's gonna incorporate that same kind of Ragnarok, Love and Thunder humor into Star Wars, I'm done. I'm done. I hate that humor. It's cringy. It's like very, very bottom of the barrel kind of stuff for me. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. If you want to enjoy some funny Star Wars, watch the Family Guy Star Wars special or watch Robot Chicken. Yeah. That's funny Star Wars. I don't want Taika, though, doing his all weird stuff. And no, I'm good. I'm good.
The only thing that can make this thing worse is doing Waititi with it. That's the only thing that can make the situation worse and make the fans more divided is you bring in a comedically divisive director like Taika Waititi and his style.
But to echo both of you, Jon Favreau, I believe, honestly, is the man, because not only just with Marvel and Lucasfilm that he had both ends of the spectrum, but he also had a dabble in Disney live action when he did The Jungle Book. He did The Lion King. So, I mean, if you look at this company, at some point, Favreau was part of it. So it's like, what better way to have a person in there, as you had mentioned, OG and Vash, that knows the business.
He's a huge Disneyland fan and Disney fan. Like Jon Favreau is legitimately a huge fan. He was going to do the Magic Kingdom movie
I remember that.
Yes, a couple years ago. Yeah, and he was touring around Disneyland for that specific reason. He's a huge fan, so that's number one. Number two, he's a huge Star Wars fan. Knows the series intimately, and if he ever has questions about it, he's got Dave Filoni in his back pocket right there, who have created some great works. And to your point, OG, he's been an architect of these huge mega IPs before, and has charted a course and direction alongside Kevin Feige, and knows how that process works. And if he needs any assistance on that, I'm sure Kevin Feige would offer it to him. Nope. Jon Favreau is the guy. There's no if or ands or buts about it.
He's the guy. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. We will absolutely see. I want to thank every single person. Thank you so much for joining us today in this huge celebration for 4,000 subscribers here at OG55. We really built a really great community here. I just love what we have here. It's absolutely incredible. And I want to thank everybody who joined us. Ali Aloha, Jay, Theme Park Casual, Goo Gamp, Stuart Rainfield, Wicked Virtue, Rogue Disney, Nerves Angel, Jalen Morris. I want to thank, gosh, there's so many people. I love the community. I love the community. ClickNet. I want to thank Isadora Rendon. Just everybody that took the time to watch the content today. We appreciate you. We appreciate the support all for the many years that we've been doing this. Every like, share, comment, view that you've contributed, super chat, super stickers, all that good stuff. We just love you guys and gals and the support. It truly is humbling, and we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep fucking going. We are doing this, and we're in it, and we're gonna just have a really good time. And I just want to thank everybody for coming on this journey with us. And again, I want to thank all the contributors, my best friends. I got Dre, VashSky, and George down below. I want to thank you guys so much for everything you guys do as well. None of this would have been possible without you guys and Alia and just everybody. It's awesome. And Marshan, you and your cussing.
She got you.
I know, Marshan. We love you, Marshan, and I'm glad you're like my YouTube mom. Like, you keep me in check with my cussing, because that is a huge problem for me, and it is a bad habit, and I'm trying very hard to get that in check. But I do appreciate you keeping on me for that. But thank you all so much for watching. We're going to close out this amazing live stream today, and we'll start off with Mr. VashSky, Dr. Dre, host of Freshly Squeezed, the man who wears many hats, many titles. Send us off, Dre.
Okay, well, hey, if you want to interact with me personally, you can go ahead and do so at VashSky. I'm sure there was a portion of this video where you saw my avatar right there, or my name right there below my, my box here. So type VashSky into Twitter. It should pop up. And if you want to see me, well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now at Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info squeezed fresh right from the Grove. Now, I will say, OG, I wanted to go ahead and congratulate you on getting over 4,000 subs! Over 4,000! So that's fantastic. That is awesome. Thank you so much for having me on, sir. It is a privilege. I am honored, humbled. Thank you so much. And to everybody who has contributed to this channel, Theme Park Casual, Matthew Murr, Alia, I'll even say it, Drunk 3PO, everybody, Jay Story Geeks, everybody we've kind of brought together. I think this has been a really, really amazing thing. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And down below, we got Mr. Family Man 23. If you can send us out, George.
Absolutely. You can find me on my YouTube channel at Disney Family Man 23. You can interact with me on Twitter at Disney George. And of course, you'll find me here on Orange Grove 55 with my segment of Citrus Corner with some sweet, juicy, but yet sticky Disney news and info. And just as Mr. VashSky had mentioned, thank you so much, OG, for letting me be a part of this wonderful channel, collaborating with the two of you. My friends, my brothers, it's an honor. I love to do this with you as many times as I can each week. Our schedules are hectic, but hey, we make it work. And, as I mentioned before, to 4,000 and beyond more subs as we continue this journey together on this channel. And again, thank you everyone for tuning in, for following us, and for all of you, which I'm for sure you're already part of the 4,000 subscribers. But if you are not, please smash that button. Smash that button, subscribe, like, leave comments, questions, because as Mr. VashSky has alluded many times before, we do use your comments, your opinions, your questions, and it does make the videos more intriguing and, as he puts it, very robust. So that does work out to bring better content for you all. So after that being said, we're going to keep it real. We're going to keep going, balls to the wall. And again, looking forward to giving you more content to come.
Thank you very much.
Yes. And also one other thing I do want to really emphasize here is that we have a lot of great people who come on and they're guests on the channel. Theme Park Casual is one of them. We love Theme Park Casual. Jay, Story Geeks. They make their own content. And support them as well. Subscribe to their channel. Check out their content. Wicked Virtue. All of them, they do amazing stuff. And they're regulars here on OG55. And show them love too. And let's kind of prop up the entire community and just sort of, show support all across the board, because there's a lot of amazing people in this community doing amazing work. Casual's one of them. Jay, Story Geeks, Wicked Virtue, Rogue Disney is another one doing a lot of great stuff. Support these guys and gals as well, because they deserve every single bit of it.
100%. Thank you so much, every single one of you for subscribing, supporting us in your way. George, I if I didn't mention you, I do apologize. Yeah, obviously, you've contributed to the channel greatly, and thank you for coming on, and to both of you, thank you for having me, and being not only somebody who is supporting me and my contribution to the channel, but also for being a friend and a brother. So thank you very much to you both.
Absolutely.
Love you guys. And also down below, ClickNet said, don't forget to support ClickNet. So yeah, absolutely. Support ClickNet. Absolutely support ClickNet. Yes. Show the love. And thank you all so much for watching the 4,000 sub celebration. We got a lot more content coming up in the weeks, months, years to come. We are just getting started. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day.